Hey guys, Zack here, and this is my review of Sonic X. Okay, so it's been a while since we've covered this series, but I decided to kind of get back into it because, I mean, you guys like it, and I'm sorry I haven't been making more of it. I just keep forgetting about it. Now I'm finally back into the schedule so I can actually start talking about it again, because I do enjoy it. It's just unfortunate that my schedule for the longest time wouldn't let me cover it. But in any case, getting back into the next episode, Clash in the Cloister is exactly what it sounds like. Sonic and Knuckles have to fight one of the Metarex generals. So, who we met I think a couple of episodes ago, if I remember correctly, but this episode does kind of show the case that they're kind of in a league of their own. So, starting off the episode, we find out the Cloister is actually this interdimensional gravity well that separates one part of space from the other half of deep space. And in order to get to where they need to go they need to go through the Cloister, and it's this massive gravity well. So of course, the immediate thing that everybody worries about is whether or not they're going to make it through. But of course, the first thing that Tails does is just turn on the shield so that they go into the Cloister and are mostly fine. But of course, as they get ready to go through the Cloister, it's at this point where Sonic just kind of starts thinking to himself, and Chris asks him what he's thinking about. And of course, Sonic points out that it has been quite a bit, and he's curious if everybody back home is worried about Chris. And of course, points out that they should probably figure out a way to send Chris back home. And of course, Chris admits that, yeah, it would be nice to go back, but he also admits that Sonic is definitely going to need him to face off against the Metarex. Especially pointing out that since he's 18, he can easily chaperone Sonic now, which the two of them share a laugh over. But in any case, they start to go through the Cloister, and in keeping with it being this big gravity well thing, it also the screen effect just gets very topsy-turvy and just a big warping mess. And of course, everybody gets very nauseous and sick to the stomach, but eventually do come to. At which point, once they're finally through the worst of the Cloister, they realize that it's full of debris, and Tails reasons that it's likely full of debris from a bunch of other planets that have passed through and have gotten destroyed or whatever reason, and now there's just bits and pieces of space debris all over the place. But of course, as they're starting to kind of contemplate about what exactly it is they're looking at, they suddenly get caught in a bunch of vines and plants and a bunch of other junk, and it quickly becomes apparent that they're going to need to get out and clean off all the gunk so that you can actually move forward and get to the other side of the Cloister. Since of course that's the big thing that they're trying to do, is they're trying to get in and out. But they of course get stuck. They immediately climb out and start trying to figure out ways to do it. And of course, Cosmo immediately admits to her sister that it feels very nostalgic for her because she used to do this with her sister all the time. Well, Knuckles is just kind of passive-aggressively pointing out that it's really that you know, the idea of cleaning off space debris off of their ship really does it for him as well. He's obviously being you know, sarcastic, but of course they quickly discover that it's not working as effectively as it should. And Tails, of course, reveals that he actually has a special trimmer that he has, which he invented for Ella a long time ago, and now uses to clean off all the space gunk. And it is, of course, a laser-powered hedge trimmer that he uses. And of course, he and the rest of the group start fighting over it when suddenly Sonic and Chris show up, and Chris has a new gadget for Sonic, having modified his shoes to have gears in them. What was it? Little buzzsaws in them that enable him to cut up all of the debris and other things that's stuck on the ship. And of course, because with Sonic super speed, they wind up cleaning off all the gunk in no time at all. But of course, it's at this point where as they're talking about this, and as they're kind of marveling Sonic cleaning it up really quickly, a massive barrier stalactite suddenly appears, and suddenly they find themselves trapped on the meteorite they're on and unable to get out. And of course, it's revealed to actually have been a Metarex trick, because Darko then proceeds to talk to his generals, pointing out that he's very happy that the barriers worked exactly as they're intended to, but now he also points out that they're going to need to figure out a way to send someone to go and deal with Sonic. of course, all of the other generals, start fighting amongst each other, but and of course he's upset, and of course they, like Pale Bayleaf and Black Narcissus, they start arguing back and forth about who should go, but ultimately Yellow Zelkova is the one who ultimately goes, claiming that a feat of strength should be the one to actually take care of it, and then muscle is kind of needed. And of course, Black Oak concedes that he was planning to send Yellow Zelkova regardless. He does point out that he was going to send him to deal with Sonic, but also points out that if he's going to trust him with this kind of thing, that he absolutely needs to eliminate Sonic completely. Like, there's not going to be any sort of and that is all ultimately what he wants. He wants to destroy Sonic at this point. And of course, Yellow Zelkova with his orders leave, while of course Black Narcissus and Pale Bayleaf kind of argue about why Yellow Zelkova gets to go and they don't. They're obviously a little disappointed, but of course Sonic meanwhile has since figured out that yes, they are in fact not going to be able to move on because they realize it's some sort of Metarex trick. But then as they kind of contemplate how to get rid of the barriers and keep going, they then hear something coming, and they don't fully understand what it is at this point. But of course, Sonic and Knuckles decide to stand their ground and order everybody else to go inside, pointing out that it'll be safe inside the Typhoon, where everybody will be safe. But of course, Amy is initially reluctant and wants to fight alongside Sonic and Knuckles, but Sonic reassures her that they can handle it, and also points out that this is an Eggman they're dealing with, and points out that he'll be fine. And of course, Amy reluctantly agrees to go inside while Sonic and Knuckles deal with it. And sure enough, Yellow Zelkova then proceeds to barge through all the barriers and demonstrates that he's able to lift them with ease. And like he easily is able to demonstrate his ability to just kind of use super strength, which of course causes Sonic and Knuckles to immediately start panicking because they realize this guy's a lot more powerful than they thought he was. And of course he does proceed to introduce himself as Yellow Zelkova, and how he yields his super strength to easily take care of them and take them out. But of course they point out that there's two of them, and that there's no way he's going to be able to handle it. And of course, with that, most of the episode winds up being a fight. Obviously, like Sonic and Knuckles try to fight back against Yellow Zelkova, but with his strength, he quickly becomes too much of a match for Knuckles, and Knuckles is sent flying at one point. While Sonic quickly realizes that while Yellow Zelkova may be big and strong, he's not fast, and then proceeds to try and demonstrate his ability to use his super speed to kind of trick Yellow Zelkova into trying to unsuccessfully attack him. And of course, it does not work. It does not work the way he thinks it's intended. Sonic just kind of perches himself on top of this stalagmite that Yellow Zelkova is swinging around, and Yellow Zelkova is telling him to get off and get down. But of course, Yellow Zelkova does eventually manage to fling Sonic off, and gets ready to go and swing at him again. When suddenly Knuckles proceeds to grab the stalagmite, and of course does point out that he takes offense to the fact that Yellow Zelkova is diminishing his strength because he's tiny. He's not particularly happy about the fact that Yellow Zelkova is mocking him about that, but of course Yellow Zelkova points out that obviously he's bigger and stronger, so of course he thinks that Knuckles isn't as strong as him. And the two kind of strike up an interesting rivalry here because they obviously are both super strong. They're both super strong characters, but ultimately he manages to repel Shadow Knuckles as well, and is about to crush him again. Try to crush him again when Sonic suddenly springs in action and grabs Knuckles, having recovered from his beatdown. And now realizing that they really stand no chance against Yellow Zelkova and now need to figure out another strategy to deal with him, they're quickly realizing that they have no strategy. They quickly realize that they need to come up with a different strategy. Sonic eventually does come up with an idea, but points out that it's going to take some fancy footwork. At which point, he proceeds to whistles to kind of mutter something as he proceeds to mutter something to Shadow that we don't get to hear very well. And the two of them then proceed to share a nod before ultimately putting their plan in action. And ultimately, their plan is to taunt Yellow Zelkova, which at first seems like it's doing nothing. obviously Yellow Zelkova gets mad at them, and he winds up charging into the Typhoon, which of course causes it to shudder a little bit inside, and everybody wonders if they're actually going to fight or not. Which because obviously Yellow Zelkova is causing a lot of problems, but of course they proceed to taunt Yellow Zelkova a lot as they keep going on. And Yellow Zelkova again keeps falling for their taunts and keeps ramming into the giant's he keeps running into the Typhoon and is trying to catch Sonic and Knuckles. And eventually, it does become apparent what Sonic and Knuckles' plan ultimately is. Eventually, they get it around to the point where the front is facing Yellow Zelkova. And now satisfied, then mock him from the top and ask him if he's ready to give up. And of course, Yellow Zelkova points out that he hasn't even gotten started, and then tells him to come down and fight him like a man. At which point they then proceed to call the Tails and reveal what their actual plan was. As it turns out, they tried to bait Yellow Zelkova into attacking the Blue Typhoon so that they could get the Sonic Speed Cannon into position so that they can shoot him with it. And of course, it's immediately what happens. Knuckles, at the second they get into range, Knuckles, they tell Tails to charge up the Sonic Speed Cannon, while Knuckles goes inside to power up the Master Emerald so that they can divert all the power into the Sonic Speed Cannon. And sure enough, they manage to boost to blast the Sonic Speed Cannon off, no problem. Yellow Zelkova, of course, has no idea what's going on. Like, he does not fully understand that the Sonic Speed Cannon is a thing, and he doesn't understand that Sonic is actually still fighting him using the Sonic Speed Cannon, and he also doesn't understand that he's supposed to move out of the way. But he ultimately gets hit with the Sonic Speed Cannon. He winds up surviving a hit from it, and of course, which is interesting because it's the first time someone in Meta-X has actually survived the Sonic Speed Cannon. Like, nobody has, none of the other opponents they face up until this point have they been able to withstand the Sonic Speed Cannon. This guy's a general, so obviously he's fine. But, of course, Sonic is able to use the Sonic Speed Cannon to repel Yellow Zelkova, and he winds up getting embedded into a meteorite, which, of course, he can't really escape from unassisted. He's unfortunately stuck and can't free himself. But, of course, with the Sonic Speed Cannon now unleashed, Sonic then uses it to kind of clear some of the barriers so that the Blue Typhoon can actually escape from the Cloister. Which, of course, Yellow Zelkova immediately realizes what they're doing and insists that they can't do that. But ultimately, Sonic winds up clearing it all out, and after firing up the engines, they are able to. Sonic does eventually return to the Blue Typhoon, where Amy greets him and is happy that he's okay and pulls him into a fierce hug. At which point, they then proceed to get ready to leave, and Yellow Zelkova, of course, yells at them for beating him and responds that this is only the beginning, and Black Oak will not rest until Dark Oak will not rest until Sonic is defeated. But of course, Sonic and Knuckles do kind of gloat a little bit. I'm pointing out that he's more than willing to send a message to his boss if he thinks he can, and tells him to send the regards. At which point they proceed to speed off deeper into the Cloister and eventually do start to find their way out and onto the other side. And of course, everyone's happy about the fact that they've made it and the fact that they were able to face off against the general and get an escape. But Chris, of course, is a little hesitant, pointing out that if that guy was just a general, then he's very worried about who else they're gonna have to face going forward. But of course, as they leave the Cloister, the episode kind of ends, and that's kind of it. So, yeah, as I said, this episode is mostly a fight against what is it? It's mostly a fight against Yellow Zelkova, who is a fun bad guy. He's very fun, but also a little foolhardy because he believes that super strength are all that matters. And of course, Dark Oak does send him, but also only on the grounds that he expects them to completely destroy Sonic, which obviously does not happen. Like, that obviously is not a thing that happens in this episode. Like obviously Sonic is still very much ongoing. He's going to continue to cause problems for the Meta-X going forward, but is still a fun episode regardless. I do like the entire fight. Like, there's not a whole lot for me to kind of talk about with this episode because it's mostly a fight. But it is a fun episode, and I do like and it does demonstrate that yes, the generals are in fact in another league of their own, because it took the Sonic Speed Cannon to finally defeat Yellow Zelkova, and in the end, he wound up surviving. He wound up just taking it in stride and just being more or less completely fine. The cannon did not do anything to him other than incapacitate him. He is fine, but yeah, ultimately there's not a whole lot I can talk about with this episode. It's a fun episode, and I enjoyed it. But it's also just a fight episode, and fight episodes don't really have a whole lot to them, unfortunately. I could go into dissect all the different fights and dialogue and all those other things, but it's a fight episode. There's not a whole lot to talk about with world building and those kinds of things. But honestly, it is a fun episode, regardless of what I'm saying about it, about how it's just a fun episode. But it's a fun episode. I enjoyed it, and don't let the fact that I'm saying that there's not a whole lot to talk about that diminish the fact that I did enjoy the episode, and it is a fun episode. But and again, Yellow Zelkova, fun bad guys. We haven't really gotten to know the Metarex generals all that well, so it is happy that we finally do get to know them via a 2-on-1 confrontation with Sonic and Knuckles. It's fun. But in any case, that is going to do it for my review of Sonic AX. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter in the description below. Be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well if you want to help support the show. It's only a couple bucks a month. It does really help me out, and I'll appreciate that because it does help fund future projects. If you want to check that out, by all means, again, link is down in the description and on the end screen. If you want to check out my Discord, we do hang out in Discord sometimes. I do watch-alongs when I finish a streaming series over on Twitch. Speaking of which, we'll talk about that. But I do stream on Twitch, and when I finish a series, we stream Saturdays and Sundays, and when I do finish a series on Twitch, we do a watch-along in the Discord. So please check both of those out. And finally, if you want to see more content from me, then be sure to check out the videos linked in the end screen. The top video is the most recent video. It may or may not be this video, whereas the bottom video is the video recommended to you based on what you've already seen from me. So if you want to try something new, or see more of what you like, then be sure to check both of those videos out. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!